Tapping in.
Are we live?
So here we are again. What's happening, world? Our future is being undermined again. And this time it's happening because the man is chasing teachers away from schools. So a report recently came out that said nearly half of teachers plan to quit by 2027. Miles, what does this mean?
It means it's gonna be a whole bunch of little dumb motherfuckers running around.
Yeah, Miles, my mom watches the show. Sorry, Mom.
What we gonna do without our teachers, man? For real, it's like it's crazy. Like shout out to Miss Ginsburg, shout out to Miss Linda, man. Like some of the most fundamental people in my life have been teachers, and I've never felt like, even as a kid, I had like this vague understanding that that teachers don't get the respect that equates to the responsibility that we entrust them with. You feel
At all. So much so that there is a 20% difference in how much teachers are getting paid compared to people who are educated at the same level.
It's jacked up. And so as a result of low pay, as a result of a lack of work-life balance, like a lot of people, I think, because teachers, at least in the US, get summers off, feel like teaching is easy, right? Not knowing that folks are working throughout the summer to compensate that pay, not knowing that throughout the school year that having to grade all of these little kids' papers is like this is heavy, bro. And to have to deal with parents, to have to invest in each of these kids, I'm telling you, it's nuts, man. I have a whole bunch of homies that are teachers that will really let you know. And dealing with the youth on the ground in the community, it's a whole task to provide the appropriate amount of care, right? So with all of that weight, half of England's teachers said that they plan to quit in the next year. A fourth of teachers in Texas are likely to leave as of 2021. This is a global issue. You know what I'm saying? Like retention for new teachers in the United States is under 40%, which means after 1 year, they're not really staying like that. That's nuts. That's crazy.
That's almost the prison retention rate high.
Bruh. In researching this, I'm looking through video after video, article, blog post after blog post of teachers that are saying that they're fed up and that are coming to the table with the same story of pressure from administration to prepare students and teach to tests, to as they eliminate services that the school provides, not prioritizing the safety of teachers in classrooms, like to the point where I'm looking through this stuff, I'm seeing students walked out. Imagine how upset the students got to be that their teachers coming in haggard, just you know what I'm saying, just not with it, just tired. You know what I'm saying? All right, kids, the teachers, for the students to be like, all right, we walking out. Mr. Johnson can't take it anymore. He slumped over his desk. He gave us all B pluses. We know we cheated.
We know we cheated. It's sad, but it's true because a lot of teachers do take on more roles than being a teacher. They are a counselor for students. They are a father and a mother for some students. They're checking on students' well-being. They're therapists for students. A lot of kids come from very difficult situations at home, and school is the only place where they can get away from it. And each teacher tries to take on a kid on a person-to-person basis. My mom was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. I remember staying up late helping my mother grade books into the night, grade papers into the night, you know. And I remember her picking up some of the kids and bringing them to the house and feeding them and extending an arm over towards them. So much so that some of them right now still call her mom. You know, all to say that a teacher's heart and somebody that goes into this field is usually very open very open and sympathetic to the people that they're teaching. And so when teachers are leaving, it's not because the teachers don't care anymore. It means that something is pushing them out of it. And what something you highlighted, Miles, is the fact that these teachers are saying that they just burnt out. They're saying they're tired. They're burnt out from the system.
Word, word. And so some of the things that we can think about, as you mentioned, teachers end up playing so many roles, right? The role of a social worker, of a mentor. We can think about other specialty staff that can be implemented into schools, like mental health professionals, right? Counselors, different people that can help address behavioral issues and take that burden off of teachers. It's I just feel for him, man. I feel for him, especially in the context of COVID, especially in the context of like just imagine coming to class, right? And you're trying to connect with students, especially when we talk about students from a lower social economic class, when we talk about students that have other issues going on, and you have a connection to this student, you're trying to teach them something. They have so many issues that they have to deal with that they shouldn't have to deal with as a kid. How are you supposed to connect with that person and to teach them? Now put that person in a position of being burnt out and to the point where they have to leave. Now think about the student's experience, right? They see um, a, a revolving door of teachers. None of them, even the ones that really do care, are pushed out of the system, don't have an opportunity to connect with them, right? How are they supposed to feel like they have any type of support system? Schools are, for most people, their first interaction with the state, the first interaction with the structural institution. What type of experience are we giving them when we treat the people that we put in charge in we put kids in their care like they're not professionals? We don't treat them like doctors. We don't treat them like lawyers.
No, no,
What
and
we on?
it's hard not to look at that from a payment, a gender pay gap, right? And which is something that we explored on this show before, which is that predominantly, at least in the U.S., the U.S. school system over 100 years, the school system started in 100 years, and before that was being taught by men. And the premise under which it was switched and then became largely a female-dominated industry was an incentive that it was going to be paid less, right? So it was an opportunity for women to enter to the workforce paid at a discounted rate. So over that time, that's why we have seen a prevalence in a prevalence in schools and teachers being underpaid so heavily, because it is ingrained in that. And still, even now, you have a majority of people who are in the teaching field, predominantly women. So it goes back to ask us about, what are we going to do, understanding that now us not paying these people enough, and the way that the school organized system is treating these people is making them leave. What happens to the kids that can do online schooling? What happens to the kids that do not have access to internets and things like that?
Word. Word. And in some places you hope that there are community safety nets for those kids, but in a lot of places there aren't, right? So we try to be that. And then the direct, I guess, conversation about teachers. I think there's a through line of organizing, right? And organizing is everything from understanding issues, acknowledging the different issues that put people at risk, especially that place youth at risk, right? And forming systems and structures against them. One such structure, right, that has served, at least in the city of Chicago, the teachers, is the Chicago Teachers Union. Uh, Referencing back to our last episode about Amazon's first union. Shout out to them boys in New York. And it's a tool, right? It's a system. It's a community of teachers that have gotten together to negotiate on their own behalf. And to keep it a whole being, they've been giving the Chicago Public Schools Department hell. You know what I mean? Especially through COVID, advocating on behalf of teachers. Walking out, shutting school down when they didn't want to return to classes. That's power. Now it's controversial, and there's always going to be parents that need their kids in school when teachers are trying to pull out and trying to negotiate. There's always going to be different issues in areas of conflict, but being able to organize, being able to bring people together. And negotiate on the behalf of everybody that has, if you have the kids in mind, this is one of those tools. So I encourage people to look again more into unionizing, more into these different ways that you can form structures to give people a voice.
Shout out to our producer pulling these pictures up for us to be able to check out, man. Giving context and imagery to what it is we're discussing. And it's you're right, Miles. You're right. It's we're not necessarily seeing and looking at our teachers the way that we're supposed to. I don't When you realize just how much things have changed since COVID, uh recently hearing about the cost of living crisis that's happening, right? Cost of living crisis, which means that there's an increase in the price of gas, there's an increase in interest, and there's an increase in consumer goods all at the same time, which is happening across the board. Added to the fact that over COVID, since May of 2020, double the people in poverty, right? There's been a double in the people that have been led to poverty, from 250 million to 500 million people that are now in abject poverty, a double increase in that. So, and then also the wealth inequality gap has also increased twicefold. So it really has been, we've been shot into this wild fast forwarding of events that are happening, and it has spat out those at the bottom in a way worse place than they are, and those at the top in a better position that they are. There's pros and cons on each. There's no pros about actually the bottom getting spat out, but all to say that even with the teaching situation, it's going to be the kids that it's not going to be the wealthy neighborhoods that feel this impact on teachers leaving because they're getting compensated and whatever the case is. It's the people at the bottom, and I think it kind of speaks to what we're seeing post COVID.
Man, it's yeah, we've talked a lot this episode. Man, I wish I remembered your contribution exactly. The season of wallet squeezing, is that what you said?
It's just the season of wallet squeezing.
Yo, the squeeze coming from all directions. Big facts, like come from the gas prices. It's come from the prices of food. I have never been more loyal to Aldi, bro. Ain't no more cute little grocery store visits through the Marianos or the Kroger, none of that. Where it's, oh, look at all these aisles and stuff. Nah, we strictly Aldi, shopping out the boxes. We put a quarter to get the cart. What you know about that? We really saving cash on this. Like, it's serious out here trying to keep these bills down, man. And it's rough. It's rough for people. Like, there's more speed traps and speed cameras out here in the streets than ever. Not only are people broke, the city's broke. So the city trying to get their money up, running up tickets on people. You know what I mean? People are hurting. People are in tough positions, and we're reaching a point where something's got to give. So I think our voice in this space is always towards organizing, towards community resources, but people are getting desperate out here, and we're going to see that evolve into a lot of different behaviors that are detrimental to us, right? So rather than looking shocked when we see what people do when their back is against the wall, we got to start thinking about how we can move around, you know?
For sure. And we have some from the comments, man. Shout out to Shani joining us on the comments. We appreciate that. This is an open conversation. Everybody jump on in. Question is there a link between the double of poverty against the wealth gained by those at the top? It is. And that's the correlation. In the similar amount of time that we've seen a double in poverty, the most amount of billionaires have been created during the pandemic time. That speaks to an unprecedented level of the types of wealth that have been created. Also, it's largely brought on by the fact that the largest cash injection was done over the COVID period, right? Where banks were just printing money out. So it's ironic that the time where most of the money is being printed out, there's also an increase in the people in poverty.
And that link is also legislation is a huge part of that link, right? It's not a coincidence that the bills and the pieces of paper, these political instruments that dictate the rules and lack thereof that companies have to abide by are made super complicated for the average person the less than higher educated person to understand. And so as we're going through this pandemic, as we're going through all of this stuff, these legislators are passing through the political process all of these legislations that make life harder for us as people and make life easier for corporations to operate, make it easier for corporations to exploit workers. And as individuals, we have less and less of a voice. If you just look at let me speak just about the US. If you just look at the way that tax breaks are laid out for corporations versus individuals, you can see whose health is prioritized, right? And I love that I'm being served alley oops right here by the comment section. If we can't rely on the government to intervene, then who do we look towards? We look towards ourselves. We look towards these government knows it's exploiting us, right? So it does all of this stuff behind the scenes and it passes this legislation, and in our face it says we're going to put in all of these opportunities for people to get grants and to get money to do all these experimental things, and we're going to put money into all of these systems of community support. We have to hold them accountable to that, and it's our responsibility to actually put our effort and time into that, right? We have to form coalitions of people that are about people, right? And build from there rather than just deciding, okay, well, we just gonna get our own money and participate in the system, right? We have to form our own groups. My bad, I'm dominating the conversation, but wanted to get in on that.
Forming our own groups and taking care of our mental health. I do not, it's sad to see teachers walk away, but if the teachers are walking away from this job because they're claiming it is bad for their mental health, which is the story that we hear across the board, then by all means protect your mental health, right? By absolutely all means. And one way that is even possible for that is to air out your grievances, finding a place where you can actually express what is happening in that company.
Yeah, solidarity, right? So one such place is Blind, right? It's this new app that's basically the evil twin of LinkedIn, right? So it's where people come specifically to not only air workplace grievances, though there is a lot of that going on, also to have conversations about things like unionizing, about things like documenting issues and finding ways to hold their own administration accountable, right? And so this is exactly the type of thing that we need to lean into, is right, figuring out where are the people that are about what we're about, where are the people that see the possibilities in what we can build, right? That's what we're constantly told. We can't do it without the government. We can't do it without their structure. We can't do it without, like, nah, get you a Zway, get you a Hassan, listen to the All the Way Live podcast and get on your grind. You know what I'm saying? We can and figure out, find your community. This is one such space. Find that space and believe in yourselves.
I tell you what, corporate is lucky that this Blind thing came out after I quit the corporate life, because I would have been lighting up those messages, boy.
Going off.
I'd have been lighting those messages. They would have heard. They would have known it was coming from me. I would have said, "Side by swear."
Big facts, man. And I actually just want to jump. I'm not even in corporate. I want to jump in this just to see the type of stuff that's going on, man. I'm inspired by collectives, and I'm inspired by the type of ingenuity. They're gonna try and shut it down. I know. I bet you one thing. I bet you they better not catch you on Blind at Amazon. You better not be on the clock at Tesla with Blind on your phone. You better not. You better not.
Find yourself holding a poster card protesting in rightful. Or I tell you what, you better not camp out at your office space and write on Blind that you're doing it either. That does not count as a protest.
Hey man, we not the gatekeepers for protests. We are grateful for our audience, man. I appreciate the comment section. It's all love, baby. I fucks with y'all heavy, man. Where we at with it?